Stone Age tools found in Bangladesh indicate human habitation for over 20,000 years, and remnants of Copper Age settlements date back 4,000 years. Ancient Bengal was settled by Austroasiatics, Tibeto-Burmans, Dravidians and Indo-Aryans in consecutive waves of migration. Archaeological evidence confirms that by the 2nd millennium BCE, rice-cultivating communities inhabited the region. By the 11th century, people lived in systemically aligned housing, buried their dead, and manufactured copper ornaments and black and red pottery. The Ganges, Brahmaputra and Meghna rivers were natural arteries for communication and transportation, and estuaries on the Bay of Bengal permitted maritime trade. The early Iron Age saw the development of metal weaponry, coinage, agriculture and irrigation. Major urban settlements formed during the late Iron Age. In the mid-1st millennium BCE, when the northern black polished ware culture developed, in 1879, Alexander Cunningham identified Mohisthaner as the capital of the Punjab kingdom mentioned in the Rig Veda. The oldest inscription in Bangladesh was found in Mohisthaner and dates from the 3rd century BCE. It is written in the Brahmi script. The Pala Empire was an imperial power during the late classical period on the Indian subcontinent, which originated in the region of Bengal. Greek and Roman records of the ancient Gandhari kingdom, which, according to legend, deterred the invasion of Alexander the Great, are linked to the fourth city in Wari-Bateshwar. The site is also identified with the prosperous trading center of Suyanagara listed on Ptolemy's world map. Roman geographers noted a large seaport in southeastern Bengal, corresponding to the present-day Chittagong region. Ancient Buddhist and Hindu states which ruled Bangladesh included the Venga, Samatada and Pandar kingdoms, the Mauryan and Gupta empires, the Varman dynasty, Shashanka's kingdom, the Khagga and Chandra dynasties, the Pala Empire, the Sena dynasty, the Heraclea kingdom and the Deva dynasty. These states had well-developed currencies, banking, shipping, architecture, and art, and the ancient universities of Bikarampur and Mainamati hosted scholars and students from other parts of Asia. Xuanzang of China was a noted scholar who resided at the Somapur Mahavihara, the largest monastery in ancient India, and Atiza traveled from Bengal to Tibet to preach Buddhism. The earliest form of the Bengali language emerged during the 8th century. Seafarers in the Bay of Bengal, where modern Bangladesh is now located in, have also been sailing and trading with Southeast Asia and exported Buddhist and Hindu cultures to Brunei, Cambodia, East Timor, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam since the early Christian era. Islamic Bengal. The early history of Islam in Bengal is divided into two phases. The first phase is the period of maritime trade with Arabia and Persia between the 8th and 12th centuries. The second phase covers centuries of Muslim dynastic rule after the Islamic conquest of Bengal. The writings of Al-Idrisi, Ibn Haqal, Al-Masudi, Ibn Khordadbeh and Sulayman record the maritime links between Arabia, Persia and Bengal. Muslim trade with Bengal flourished after the fall of the Sasanian Empire and the Arab takeover of Persian trade routes. Much of this trade occurred with southeastern Bengal in areas east of the Meghna River. There is speculation regarding the presence of a Muslim community in Bangladesh as early as 690s. This is based on the discovery of one of South Asia's oldest mosques in northern Bangladesh. Bengal was possibly used as a transit route to China by the earliest Muslims. Abbasid coins have been discovered in the archaeological ruins of Baharpur and Mainamati. A collection of Sasanian, Umayyad and Abbasid coins are preserved in the Bangladesh National Museum. The Muslim conquest of Bengal began with the 1204 Ghurid expeditions led by Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khalji, who overran the Sena capital in Gauda and led the first Muslim army into Tibet. The conquest of Bengal was inscribed in gold coins of the Delhi Sultanate. Bengal was ruled by the sultans of Delhi for a century under the Mamluk, Balban, and Tughlaq dynasties. In the 14th century, 9 city-states emerged in Bengal, including Sonarjaya and led by Fakhruddin Mubarak Shah. Sayed Jahan led by Shamsuddin Ilyas Shah and Lakhnauti led by Alauddin Ali Shah. These city-states were led by former governors who declared independence from Delhi. The Moroccan traveller Ibn Battuta visited eastern Bengal during the reign of Fakhruddin Mubarak Shah. Ibn Battuta also visited the Sufi leader Shah Jalal Siyat. Sufis played an important role in spreading Islam in Bengal through both peaceful conversion and militarily overthrowing pre-Islamic rulers. In 1352, Shamsuddin Ilyas Shah united the three city-states into a single, unitary and independent Bengal Sultanate. The new Sultan of Bengal led the first Muslim army into Nepal and forced the Sultan of Delhi to retreat during an invasion. The army of Ilyas Shah reached as far as Varanasi in the northwest, Kathmandu in the north, Kamarupa in the east and Orissa in the south. Ilyas Shah raided many of these areas and returned to Bengal with treasures. During the reign of Sikandar Shah, Delhi recognized Bengal's independence. The Bengal Sultanate established a network of mint towns which acted as a provincial capitals where the Sultan's currency was minted. Bengal became the eastern frontier of the Islamic world, which stretched from Muslim Spain in the west to Bengal in the east. The Bengali language crystallized as an official court language during the Bengal Sultanate, with prominent writers like Mir Ghulam, Usman Sirajuddin, Alal Haq, Alal, Shah Muhammad Sagir, Abdul Hakim and Said Sultan, and the emergence of Dabhashi to write Muslim epics in Bengali literature. The Bengal Sultanate was a melting pot of Muslim political, mercantile and military elites. Muslims from other parts of the world migrated to Bengal for military, bureaucratic and household services. Immigrants included Persians who were lawyers, teachers, clerics, and scholars, Turks from Upper India who were originally recruited in Central Asia, and Abyssinians who came via East Africa and arrived in the Bengali port of Chittagong. A highly commercialized and monetized economy evolved. The two most prominent dynasties of the Bengal Sultanate were the Ilyas Shaili and Hussain Shaili dynasties. The reign of Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah saw the opening of diplomatic relations with Ming China. Ghiyasuddin was also a friend of the Persian poet Hafez. The reign of the Sultan Jalaluddin Muhammad Shah saw the development of Bengali architecture. During the early 15th century, the restoration of Minad Samun in Arakan was aided by the army of the Bengal Sultanate. As a result, Arakan became a tributary state of Bengal. Even though Arakan later became independent, Bengali Muslim influence in Arakan persisted for 300 years due to the settlement of Bengali bureaucrats, poets, military personnel, farmers, artisans and sailors. The kings of Arakan fashioned themselves after Bengali sultans and adopted Muslim titles. During the reign of Sultan Alauddin Hussain Shah, the Bengal Sultanate dispatched a naval flotilla and an army of 24,000 soldiers led by Shah Ismail Ghazi to conquer Assam. Bengali forces penetrated deep into the Brahmaputra Valley. Hussain Shah's forces also conquered Jajnagar in Orissa. In Tripura, Bengal helped Ratnamanakya I to assume the throne. The Jaunpur Sultanate, Pratapgarhi Kingdom and the island of Chandradwip also came under Bengali control. By 1500, Gaur became the fifth most populous city in the world with a population of 200,000. The river port of Sonarjan was used as a base by the sultans of Bengal during campaigns against Assam, Tripura and Arakan. The sultans launched many naval raids from Sonarjan. Joatil de Poundo de Barros described the seaport of Chittagong as the most famous and wealthy city of the Kingdom of Bengal. Maritime trade linked Bengal with China, Malacca, Sumatra, Brunei, Portuguese India, East Africa, Arabia, Persia, Mesopotamia, Yemen and the Maldives. Bengali ships were among the biggest vessels plying the Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. A royal vessel from Bengal accommodated 3 embassies from Bengal, Brunei and Sumatra while en route to China, and was the only vessel capable of transporting 3 embassies. Many wealthy Bengali ship owners and merchants lived in Malacca. The sultans permitted the opening of the Portuguese settlement in Chittagong. The disintegration of the Bengal Sultanate began with the intervention of the Suri Empire. Babur began invading Bengal after creating the Mughal Empire. The Bengal Sultanate collapsed with the overthrow of the Kaurani dynasty during the reign of Akbar. However, The Bati region of eastern Bengal continued to be ruled by aristocrats of the former Bengal Sultanate led by Isa Khan. They formed an independent federation called the 12 Buyans. With their capital in Sonarjatan, they defeated the Mughals in several naval battles. The Buyans ultimately succumbed to the Mughals after Musa Khan was defeated. The Mughal Empire controlled Bengal by the 17th century. During the reign of Emperor Akbar, the Bengali agrarian calendar was reformed to facilitate tax collection. The Mughals established Dhaka as a fort city and commercial metropolis, and it was the capital of Bengal Suba for 75 years. In 1666, the Mughals expelled the Arakanese from Chittagong. Mughal Bengal attracted foreign traders for its muslin and silk goods, and the Armenians were a notable merchant community. A Portuguese settlement in Chittagong flourished in the southeast, and a Dutch settlement in Rajshahi existed in the north. Bengal accounted for 40% of overall Dutch imports from Asia, including more than 50% of textiles and around 80% of silks. The Bengal Suba, described as the paradise of the nations, was the empire's wealthiest province, and a major global exporter, a notable center of worldwide industries such as muslin, cotton textiles, silk, and shipbuilding. Its citizens also enjoyed one of the world's most superior living standards. During the 18th century, the Nawabs of Bengal became the region's de facto rulers. The ruler's title is popularly known as the Nawab of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Given that the Bengali Nawab's realm encompassed much of the eastern subcontinent, the Nawabs forged alliances with European colonial companies, making the region relatively prosperous early in the century. Bengal accounted for 50% of the gross domestic product of the empire. The Bengali economy relied on textile manufacturing, shipbuilding, saltpeter production, craftsmanship, and agricultural produce. Bengal was a major hub for international trade. Silk and cotton textiles from Bengal were worn in Europe, Japan, Indonesia, and Central Asia. Annual Bengali shipbuilding output was 223,250 tons, compared to an output of 23,061 tons in the 19 colonies of North America. Bengali shipbuilding proved to be more advanced than European shipbuilding before the Industrial Revolution. The flush deck of Bengali rice ships was later replicated in European shipbuilding to replace the step deck design for ship hulls. Eastern Bengal was a thriving melting pot with strong trade and cultural networks. It was a relatively prosperous part of the subcontinent and the center of the Muslim population in the eastern subcontinent. The Muslims of eastern Bengal included people of diverse origins from different parts of the world. The Bengali Muslim population was a product of conversion and religious evolution, and their pre-Islamic beliefs included elements of Buddhism and Hinduism. The construction of mosques, Islamic academies, madrasas, and Sufi monasteries, Conkas, facilitated conversion, and Islamic cosmology played a significant role in developing Bengali Muslim society. Scholars have theorized that Bengalis were attracted to Islam by its egalitarian social order, which contrasted with the Hindu caste system. By the 15th century, Muslim poets were widely writing in the Bengali language. Syncretic cults, such as the Baul movement, emerged on the fringes of Bengali Muslim society. The Persianate culture was significant in Bengal, where cities like Sonarjatan became the easternmost centers of Persian influence. In 1756, Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah sought to rein in the rising power of the British East India Company by revoking their free trade rights and demanding the dismantling of their fortification in Calcutta. A military conflict ensued which culminated in the Battle of Plassey on June 22, 1757. Robert Clive exploited rivalries within the Nawab's family, bribing Mir Jafar, the Nawab's uncle and commander-in-chief, to ensure Siraj-ud-Daulah's defeat. Clive rewarded Mir Jafar by making him Nawab in place of Siraj-ud-Daulah, but henceforth the position was a figurehead appointed and controlled by the company. After Plassey, the Mughal emperor ruled Bengal in name only. Effective power rested with the company. Historians often describe the battle as the beginning of British colonial rule in South Asia. Historian Willem van Schendel describes it as the beginning of empire for Britain. The company replaced Mir Jafar with his son-in-law, Mir Kazim, In 1760, Mir Kazi challenged British control by allying with Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II and the Nawab of Awadh, Shuja Addaulah, but the company decisively defeated the three at the Battle of Buxar on October 23, 1764. The resulting treaty made the Mughal emperor a puppet of the British and gave the company the right to collect taxes, Diwani, in Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, giving them de facto control of the region. The company used Bengal's tax revenue to conquer the rest of India. By 1857, the company controlled over 60% of the subcontinent directly, and exercised indirect rule over the remainder. Colonial period. 2 decades after Vasco da Gama's landing in Calicut, the Bengal Sultanate permitted the Portuguese settlement in Chittagong to be established in 1528. It became the first European colonial enclave in Bengal. The Bengal Sultanate lost control of Chittagong in 1531 after Arakan declared independence and the established Kingdom of Morocco. Portuguese ships from Goa and Malacca began frequenting the port city in the 16th century. The cartas system was introduced and required all ships in the area to purchase naval trading licenses from the Portuguese settlement. Slave trade and piracy flourished. The nearby island of Sandwip was conquered in 1602. In 1615, the Portuguese navy defeated a joint Dutch East India Company and Arakanese fleet near the coast of Chittagong. The Bengal Sultan after 1534 allowed the Portuguese to create several settlements at Chittagong, St. Jaitan, Huli, Bandil, and Dhaka. In 1535, the Portuguese allied with the Bengal Sultan and held the Tilagarhi Pass 280 kilometers, 170 miles, from Patna, helping to avoid the invasion by the Mughals. By then several of the products came from Patna and the Portuguese sent in traders, establishing a factory there since 1580. By the time the Portuguese assured military help against Sher Shah, the Mughals already had started to conquer the Sultanate of Ghayusuddin Mahmud. Bengal was the wealthiest region in the Indian subcontinent, and its industrial economy showed signs of driving an industrial revolution. The region has been described as the paradise of nations, and its inhabitants' living standards and real wages were among the highest in the world. It alone accounted for 40% of Dutch imports outside the European continent. The eastern part of Bengal was globally prominent in industries such as textile manufacturing and shipbuilding, and it was a major exporter of silk and cotton textiles, steel, saltpeter, and agricultural and industrial produce in the world. 90. In 1666, the Mughal government of Bengal led by Viceroy Shasta Khan moved to retake Chittagong from Portuguese and Arakanese control. The Anglo-Mughal War was witnessed in 1686. After the 1757 Battle of Plassey, Bengal was the first region of the Indian subcontinent conquered by the British East India Company. The company formed the Presidency of Fort William, which administered the region until 1858. A notable aspect of company rule was the permanent settlement, which established the feudal zamindari system. In addition, company policies led to the deindustrialization of Bengal's textile industry. The capital amassed by the East India Company in Bengal was invested in the emerging industrial revolution in Great Britain, in industries such as textile manufacturing. Economic mismanagement, alongside drought and a smallpox epidemic, directly led to the Great Bengal Famine of 1770. Which is estimated to have caused the deaths of between 1 million and 10 million people. Several rebellions broke out during the early 19th century, including one led by Timur, as company rule had displaced the Muslim ruling class from power. A conservative Islamic cleric, Haji Shriachala, sought to overthrow the British by propagating Islamic revivalism. Several towns in Bangladesh participated in the Indian Rebellion of 1857 and pledged allegiance to the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was later exiled to neighboring Burma. The challenge posed to company rule by the failed Indian Mutiny led to the creation of the British Indian Empire as a crown colony. The British established several schools, colleges, and a university in Bangladesh. Syed Ahmed Khan and Ram Mohan Roy promoted modern and liberal education in the subcontinent, inspiring the Aligarh movement and the Bengal Renaissance. During the late 19th century, novelists, social reformers and feminists emerged from Muslim Bengali society. Electricity and municipal water systems were introduced in the 1890s. Cinemas opened in many towns during the early 20th century. East Bengal's plantation economy was important to the British Empire, particularly its jute and tea. The British established tax-free river ports, such as the port of Narayanganj, and large seaports like the port of Chittagong. Bengal had the highest gross domestic product in British India. Bengal was one of the first regions in Asia to have a railway. The first railway in what is now Bangladesh began operating in 1862. In comparison, Japan saw its first railway in 1872. The main railway companies in the region were the Eastern Bengal Railway and Assam Bengal Railway. Railways competed with waterborne transport to become one of the main mediums of transport. Supported by the Muslim aristocracy, the British government created the province of Eastern Bengal and Assam in 1905. The new province received increased investment in education, transport, and industry. However, the first partition of Bengal created an uproar in Calcutta and the Indian National Congress. In response to growing Hindu nationalism, the All India Muslim League was formed in Dhaka during the 1906 All India Mohammedan Educational Conference. The British government reorganized the provinces in 1912, reuniting East and West Bengal and making Assam a second province. The Raj was slow to allow self-rule in the colonial subcontinent. It established the Bengal Legislative Council in 1862, and the council's native Bengali representation increased during the early 20th century. The Bengal Provincial Muslim League was formed in 1913 to advocate civil rights for Bengali Muslims within a constitutional framework. During the 1920s, the League was divided into factions supporting the Caliphate movement and favoring cooperation with the British to achieve self-rule. Segments of the Bengali elite supported Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the 1/4 RK's secularist forces. In 1929, the All Bengal Tenants Association was formed in the Bengal Legislative Council to counter the influence of the Hindu landed gentry, and the Indian independence and Pakistan movements strengthened during the early 20th century. After the Morley-Minto reforms and the diarchy era in the legislatures of British India, the British government promised limited provincial autonomy in 1935. The Bengal Legislative Assembly, British India's largest legislature, was established in 1937. Although it won most seats in 1937, the Bengal Congress boycotted the legislature. A.K. Fazlul Huq of the Krishak Prajat Party was elected as the first Prime Minister of Bengal. In 1940, Huq supported the Lahore Resolution, which envisaged independent states in the subcontinent's northwestern and eastern Muslim majority regions. The first Huq ministry, a coalition with the Bengal Provincial Muslim League, lasted until 1941. It was followed by a Huq coalition with the Hindu Mahasabha, which lasted until 1943. Huq was succeeded by Khawaja Nazimuddin, who grappled with the effects of the Burma campaign, the Bengal famine of 1943, which killed up to 3 million people, and the Quit India movement. In 1946, the Bengal Provincial Muslim League won the provincial election, taking 113 of the 250-seat assembly, the largest Muslim League mandate in British India. H.S. Suhrawardy, who made a final futile effort for a united Bengal in 1946, was the last premier of Bengal. Partition of Bengal, 1947. On June 3, 1947, the Mountbatten Plan outlined the partition of British India. On 20th of June, the Bengal Legislative Assembly met to decide on the partition of Bengal. At the preliminary joint meeting, it was decided, 120 votes to 90, that if the province remained united, it should join the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. At a separate meeting of legislators from West Bengal, it was decided, 58 votes to 21, that the province should be partitioned and West Bengal should join the Constituent Assembly of India. At another meeting of legislators from East Bengal, it was decided, 106 votes to 35, that the province should not be partitioned and 107 votes to 34, that East Bengal should join the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan if Bengal was partitioned. On 6 July, the Sylhet region of Assam voted in a referendum to join East Bengal. Cyril Radcliffe was tasked with drawing the borders of Pakistan and India, and the Radcliffe Line established the borders of present-day Bangladesh. The Radcliffe Line awarded two-thirds of Bengal as the eastern wing of Pakistan, although the medieval and early modern Bengali capitals of Gaur, Panjshir and Murshidabad fell on the Indian side close to the border with Pakistan. Union with Pakistan. The Dominion of Pakistan was created on August 14, 1947. East Bengal, with Dhaka as its capital, was the most populous province of the 1947 Pakistani Federation, led by Governor-General Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who promised freedom of religion and secular democracy in the new state. Khawaja Naseemuddin was East Bengal's first chief minister, with Frederick Chalmers born its governor. The All-Pakistan Awami Muslim League was formed in 1949. In 1950, the East Bengal Legislative Assembly enacted land reform, abolishing the permanent settlement and zamindari system. The 1952 Bengali language movement was the first sign of friction between the country's geographically separated wings. The Awami Muslim League was renamed the more secular Awami League in 1953. The first Constituent Assembly was dissolved in 1954. This was challenged by its East Bengali speaker, Maulvi Tamizuddin Khan. The United Front coalition swept aside the Muslim League in a landslide victory in the 1954 East Bengali legislative election. The following year, East Bengal was renamed East Pakistan as part of the One Unit program, and the province became a vital part of the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. Pakistan adopted a new constitution in 1956. Three Bengalis were its prime minister until 1957, Naseemuddin, Muhammad Ali of Baghra and Suhrawardy. None of the three completed their terms, and resigned from office. The Pakistan Army imposed military rule in 1958, and Ayub Khan was the country's strongman for 11 years. Political repression increased after the coup. Khan introduced a new constitution in 1962, replacing Pakistan's parliamentary system with a presidential and gubernatorial system, based on electoral college selection, known as basic democracy. In 1962 Dhaka became the seat of the National Assembly of Pakistan, a move seen as appeasing increased Bengali nationalism. The Pakistani government built the controversial Kapti Dam, displacing the Shakba people from their indigenous homeland in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. During the 1965 presidential election, Fatima Jinnah lost to Ayub Khan despite support from the Combined Opposition Alliance, which included the Awami League. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 blocked cross-border transport links with neighboring India and what is described as a second partition. In 1966, Awami League leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman announced the six-point movement for a federal parliamentary democracy. According to senior World Bank officials, Pakistan practiced extensive economic discrimination against East Pakistan, greater government spending on West Pakistan, financial transfers from East to West Pakistan, the use of East Pakistan's foreign exchange surpluses to finance West Pakistani imports, and refusal by the central government to release funds allocated to East Pakistan because the previous spending had been under budget. Though East Pakistan generated 70% of Pakistan's export revenue with its jute and tea. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was arrested for treason in the Agartala conspiracy case and was released during the 1969 uprising in East Pakistan, which resulted in Ayub Khan's resignation. General Yahya Khan assumed power, reintroducing martial law. Ethnic and linguistic discrimination was common in Pakistan's civil and military services, in which Bengalis were underrepresented. 15% of Pakistani central government offices were occupied by East Pakistanis, who formed 10% of the military. Cultural discrimination also prevailed, making East Pakistan forge a distinct political identity. Pakistan banned Bengali literature and music in state media, including the works of Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. A cyclone devastated the coast of East Pakistan in 1970, killing an estimated 500,000 people, and the central government was criticized for its poor response. After the December 1970 elections, calls for the independence of East Bengal became louder. The Bengali Nationalist Awami League won 167 of 169 East Pakistani seats in the National Assembly. The league claimed the right to form a government and develop a new constitution but was strongly opposed by the Pakistani military and the Pakistan People's Party, led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. War of Independence main article, Bangladesh Liberation War. The Bengali population was angered when Prime Minister-elect Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was prevented from taking the office. Civil disobedience erupted across East Pakistan, with calls for independence. Mujib addressed a pro-independence rally of nearly 2 million people in Dhaka, as Dhaka used to be spelled in English, on March 7, 1971, where he said, "This time the struggle is for our freedom. This time the struggle is for our independence." The flag of Bangladesh was raised for the first time on 23 March, Pakistan's Republic Day. Later, on 25 March late evening, the Pakistani military junta led by Yahya Khan launched a sustained military assault on East Pakistan under the code name of Operation Searchlight. The Pakistan Army arrested Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and flew him to Karachi. However, before his arrest, Mujib proclaimed the independence of Bangladesh at midnight on 26 March, which led the Bangladesh Liberation War to break out within hours. The Pakistan Army and its local supporters continued to massacre Bengalis, in particular students, intellectuals, political figures, and Hindus in the 1971 Bangladesh genocide. The Mukti Bahini, a guerrilla resistance force, also violated human rights during the conflict. During the war, an estimated 0.3 to 3.0 million people were killed and several million people took shelter in neighboring India. Global public opinion turned against Pakistan as news of the atrocities spread. The Bangladesh movement was supported by prominent political and cultural figures in the West, including Ted Kennedy, George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Victoria Ocampo and Andre Tilde. Copyright Malrax. The concert for Bangladesh was held at Madison Square Garden in New York City to raise funds for Bangladeshi refugees. The first major benefit concert in history, it was organized by Harrison and Indian Bengali sitarist Ravi Shankar. During the Bangladesh Liberation War, Bengali nationalists declared independence and formed the Mukti Bahini, the Bangladeshi National Liberation Army. The Provisional Government of Bangladesh was established on April 17, 1971, converting the 469 elected members of the Pakistani National Assembly and East Pakistani Provincial Assembly into the Constituent Assembly of Bangladesh. The Provisional Government issued a proclamation that became the country's interim constitution and declared equality, human dignity, and social justice as its fundamental principles. Due to Mujib's detention, Syed Nazrul Islam took over the role of acting president, while Tajuddin Ahmad was named Bangladesh's first prime minister. The Mukti Bahini and other Bengali guerrilla forces formed the Bangladesh Forces, which became the military wing of the provisional government, led by General M.A. G. Osmani and 11 sector commanders. The forces held the countryside during the war. They conducted wide-ranging guerrilla operations against Pakistani forces. As a result, almost the entire country except for the capital Dhaka was liberated by Bangladesh.